Is that it? That is the perfect like setup for a second game that never happened. Oh my god, that was awesome. All right, yeah, that was amazing. I really enjoyed that. I've got my review then. Shall I go ahead and read my review? Oh, there's pictures. I really loved this game. The irreverent humour fitted perfectly with the subject matter of psychics and brains. It's clear to me that the team who created the game are either totally insane, very creative, or likely a mix of the two. I really appreciated that. I think it creates a funny and engaging story, with mechanics that are really nicely explained within the story and lore of the game. The story was nicely placed with interesting, fleshed out characters, although I did feel that all the character development during the early stages of the game was rather wiped out when all the characters' brains were removed, essentially removing the characters from the game. I know we picked up the brains a little bit later in the game, but you never really revisit the main area again to speak to them. The gameplay was solid, although a tad clunky. I did feel that overall there were too many options and power-ups available, which occasionally negatively impacted my enjoyment of the game, as I had to keep pausing the game to change around which power-ups I had equipped. The graphics have dated fairly badly, but this is to be expected for a game that came out on the PlayStation 2. I believe the graphics of this game at the time were fairly average, but as a game that doesn't really rely on perfect graphics, I don't feel it's a problem. As I mentioned, I do feel that there were too many power-ups and items for a control set of just 3 items at a time. This meant that by the time I had reached the halfway point of the game and the game had started throwing puzzles that utilised my full arsenal, I was having to pause the game and find the spell or item I needed, then equipping it to use it all the time. It is worth noting that there isn't really any difference between this and the Ocarina of Time in this regard. The puzzles were interesting and varied, but I do feel that they were occasionally unfairly obtuse and difficult to figure out, and I feel the whole use bacon for a helpful hint is a lazy game mechanic that is just there to fill in for bad game design. The game also has its fair share of bugs and visual glitches, but nothing game breaking. Overall, I feel that the game is very well rounded, with better than average story and characters, an engaging world with a clever and interesting overworld, solid gameplay with mechanics that are explained beautifully by the story, varied levels and amusing dialogue. I laughed loud and often while I was playing the game, more than I did when I played Duke Nukem 2013, which is a game that has little going for it other than being funny. I would genuinely recommend this game to anyone, especially anyone who likes retro fantasy circa the early 2000s. There we go. Thank you.